Ever since the destruction of the Jewish temple, which led to a mass Jewish exile from their ancestral homeland, the Jews have suffered immense persecution and discrimination in the hands of most Muslim and Christian countries.
In the late 1800s, the idea of restoring a Jewish home in the land of Israel was inspired by the apparent rise of anti-Semitism in Europe and around the world. After a few failed attempts at re-establishing a state in the early 1900s, a new wave of anti-Semitism has claimed the lives of over 6 million innocent Jews.
Israel is a safe haven and a home to a people with a strong, vibrant history and culture that dates back over 3,000 years. Yet, unfortunately, through the media's reporting and many anti-Semitic viewpoints, it is also one of the most hated and intriguing countries on earth, whose mere existence produces conflicts that engulf the world's attention.
When the Jews realized there was no longer a viable reason to not having their own country, they slowly took control of their own destiny, as they were finally able to rebuild a democratic state of Israel in their historic homeland.
Therefore, we the teens of JCCA's Bukharian Teen Lounge took it upon ourselves to go beyond the media and speak to those in our family and our community about why we should continue having a strong connection with the only democracy in the Middle East, the State of Israel. This is the story of our connection.
Our Khi-bur!
Hey Ali, thank you so much for doing this interview with me.
No problem. How are you, Eddie? How's everything with you? How's the family?
I'm doing really good. The family's also doing
Good,
really
man. Awesome. So you want to do the interview?
Yeah.
Okay. How about we get a haircut while you ask me the questions?
Okay.
So what have you been up to?
I've been up to schoolwork and everything.
Oh, yeah? You teaching other kids about Israel?
Yeah, Israel. You were born in Israel, right?
Yeah, I was. Grew up there. I grew up in Jerusalem.
How many years did you live in Israel?
Well, I was born there, and I left when I was 16. Well, 2 months shy of 16.
Why?
Kind of something like that.
What was the reason why you left?
There was no really specific reason. I guess maybe my parents wanted me to try to have a better life. In their views, I guess being in the U.S. was maybe a better life, better opportunity for everybody. So they asked me to move here, and that's what happened.
Do you think, since you still live in America, you still have a connection to Israel?
Sure, every day. I think there's plenty of Jews and especially Israelis that live in the U.S. Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan. There's Israelis everywhere. Everywhere you go, you obviously gonna see Jews. Jewish people is one thing, but Israelis are a little different than Jewish people. As far as Jews from Europe, they might act different, but Israelis have a very unique type of acting. You could kind of recognize them from far away.
What do you?
So yeah.
What do you mean by notice them?
Well, the one thing a lot of people say about Israelis, they're a little loud. It's not their fault. It's just because they come from a very hard country. So it's in your blood. You have to be a little louder. You have to be a go-getter.
Do you believe since you're Jewish, you have a relationship to Israel?
Sure. First of all, it's our homeland. We have the Wailing Wall. In every religious aspect, Israel is our religious, basically center for us, for Jews. It's the center. Jerusalem. It's a very holy place. Everything that has to do with Judaism came from Israel and started there and still going on there. So yeah, you could say that.
So tell me, what brings you here today? Well, I just wanted to talk a little bit more about your connection to Israel. When we were younger, we went to Israel for your bar mitzvah, but I don't really remember everything since I was only 5. So it was the best experience I've ever had. That was my second time going to Israel. The first time I went was for our older brother's bar mitzvah, Alex. When I went with Alex, I don't remember much because, again, I was young. But I can tell you like this, when we went for my bar mitzvah, it was the best time I've ever had. Coming off the plane, going into the next day, taking a drive on a huge coach bus to the hotel with all your family members that you haven't seen in like 5-6 years. It's the most amazing thing. The way you walk into the hotel and just walking to the wall, it's the biggest connection that you can have that with God. Like, you feel the holiness. You feel like you have stepped foot to your holy land. This is, at the end of the day, this is where we all came from.
If you didn't have family or friends there, would you consider visiting it, and why?
Absolutely. First time back in 2000 when I received my passport, and I found out about this Birthright Ezra UST organization, and it was a free trip for young kids, and I took the opportunity to go to Israel, and it was a 10-day trip, and the 10 days that I was there, it was just a phenomenal experience. I got to see places that you could only probably see in the magazines, and I liked the trip so much that I extended my trip 10 extra days.
Do you believe that not many, but a good amount of Jews are scared to go with Israel because of all the fighting?
Yes, certainly there's a lot of Jews that they listen to the media, they listen to whatever the news channels might tell them. They read the papers, and most of the time on the news and on the papers, they never report the good things. They like reporting the bad things, so this way you can actually listen to the news. I mean, how else would they sell the news? So they are scared. Some people are, some people are not. Me personally, I think there's no reason to be scared. Everybody should go, and everybody should visit and see it themselves, and as long as they use common sense, everyone should be just fine.
With all the negative information we read or hear about Israel, why should we continue to connect with Israel?
So as a former Israeli soldier, as an officer who served in the IDF, I think that a lot of the information that is getting out in the media is not necessarily true. Even if it is true, it's definitely not told in the right context, and all the details are not out there. I think that criticism is a good thing. In every democracy, people should criticize. Israelis criticize themselves more than anybody else. And I think that criticism is a good thing if the mindset of it is to create change, if it's to bring about what you want to see in a different way. But when the criticism crosses a line and becomes something very, very sinister, which doesn't have the goal of change, but it's really just there to delegitimize Israel and say that there's no right for Israel to exist, if it's to demonize Israelis, trying to paint them as vampires and ghosts and horrible people who are sucking the blood of other people, and if it's double standards where Israel is shamed and said that they do these horrible things, where when it happens everywhere else in the other world where there are actual war crimes and nothing is being said and done about it, that's not legitimate criticism. That is something very, very dangerous, and it's a hate crime.
Why do you think that people hate or dislike Israel? Media. People don't understand that Jews are not here to harm anybody. All we want is peace and unity. Achdut. That's what Jews are all about. Hashem does good to people who do good. He does good to those who do good. And since we have no harm towards people, this is why we are so protected. And this is why we have the Holy Land.
How do you get our next generation to connect more with Israel?
I think every parent, every uncle, every aunt should take their loved ones or somebody from the younger generation and put them on a El Al flight and just take them to Israel and see what Israel is all about. Just discover Israel and take the tourism, and just they'll see the difference and importance of Israel.
The young generation this is all we have, because the young generation is the next one that will represent us as Jews. So if you're a Jewish person or a Jewish kid, you should understand that you're representing the Jewish nation, and it's your job to be more closer to Israel and try to relate as much as you could to Israel, just to understand that you're carrying on the responsibility of the new generation.
What can we do from abroad to help the state of Israel and the Israeli people in their time of need?
So I think there are a lot of different things that you can do from abroad, even if you don't live in Israel. I think there's a lot of ways to support Israel. The easiest way, I would say, is online, because online you don't have to physically be in Israel. There's social media. And there's a lot of ways to, whether it's posting, whether it's sharing information, whether it's commenting on different things. And you should understand that a lot of this delegitimization effort that we mentioned is actually happening online. It's happening on social media. Because it's very easy to sway somebody's opinion. And it's not a combat war, it's a reputational war. And a reputational war is the war of, it's the fight of trying to win the hearts and minds of people. And I think that you, just like anybody else, has the opportunity to win hearts and minds over Israel, and try to share that information that you have, make sure that people know what you feel about Israel, tell them about people that you've met, times that you've been in Israel, and you can do that offline as well. You can do that by just talking to people that you know, whether it's at school, in your community, walking down the street, anybody that you meet. If you tell them from your personal experience what you know, what you feel, and what you've seen, that's much stronger than them reading some article about something that they might not necessarily connect to. Because this is something that you have from your first-hand experience. And there's nothing stronger than that. And we really hope that you guys will try to share your experiences as much as possible.
And to end things off, what final message do you have for Jews and like anyone who is interested about Israel?
People will always discriminate us because we have unity. And at the end of the day, that's what Judaism is all about, unity. If we always stay together, people will always hate us. But don't worry, one day, people will understand. But I also want kids to know that I want the Jewish kids, when they hit 18, the first thing I want them to put on their agenda list is to go to Birthright. Birthright is one of the most amazing things that were ever created. And I would like for you to do that as well. First thing, when you turn 18, we're going to send you off to Birthright. 6 o'clock in the morning, you're going to wake up and go on that hike.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
I hope I answered all your questions properly.
Yeah.
And
That's
I
great.
gave you
Thank
the proper information that you wanted to know.
Well, thank you so much, Ali, for this haircut.
Yeah, we could probably continue if you have any more questions.
Yeah.
Probably continue it after the haircut.
Yeah.
But take a look at this, at what you look like.
Oh, it looks really good. Thank you.
For those that haven't been there, we are Jews as one nation, and we should all be united. We should all be respectful to each other, and we should honor each other every day, because whatever happened in after World War II, in Holocaust, I hope it never happens again to all the Jews that had to suffer.
We really feel that the Jewish people, and we really feel it here and in Israel, we're all one. And it also has to do to the two questions before and the answers. The battle for the Jewish people, I believe, is one big battle. And in Israel, in the IDF and in Israel, we fight one of its fronts. And here in America and outside of Israel, all the Jewish fight in another front. In the front of delegitimization, in the front of the media. And I feel that being one, feeling one people that we are, this is the message for the future.
Ladies and gentlemen, this song's dedicated to every single one of y'all that put it on the line. Yeah. From Medinat Israel, we're gonna do it like this. Thank you. Thank you so much. Let's go. They got me like left, right, left, and I've been marching for some time, but it's best to keep on moving forward. Yeah, to keep on moving forward. No, 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 no. They got me like left, right, left, and I've been stressing for some time, but it's best to stay self-assured. To stay self-assured. They got me so angry. Truthfully, I'm furious. To vote, trigger, click, clack, I'll say that I was curious. Maybe just a tad delirious, I'm losing my way. Been marching for days, through the sand, the blood, the rain. The pain contains itself inside of me. I keep a diary, cause bodies dropping like Molly inside of college parties. On a Saturday while you drinking and cheers to the life. We gon' shut the tunnels down and stop the rockets in flight. That they aiming at our children's bed, they trying to paint the city red. We hiding in the marsh with red crosshairs upon your head. And I know we ain't got the best people in offices, but you know what's said, you gotta pick yourself up, along with your officer who's bleeding, holding his guts. Unfortunately, this the situation and it's unjust. The world is blind and contagious and the leaders corrupt. And we are planted in the middle, fingers pointed at us. They got me like left, right, left. And I've been marching for some time, but it's